Everyone knows that Rolex is the biggest watch brand in the world. Whether you love them or hate them, you can't ignore them. While many Rolex models like the Submariner or Daytona are unattainable for many, the Oyster Perpetual and Datejust often offer a gateway into the world of Rolex. These are two of the most simple and attainable Rolexes, and you can just walk into a jewelry store and walk out with them. No, you can't. There isn't a single Rolex model that you can just walk in and buy unless you're really lucky or you're a billionaire. But you could realistically hope to have one of these models with a wait of only a few months. In fact, the Datejust and Oyster Perpetual are two of Rolex's most produced watches. Before I reveal the numbers, do you want to take a guess at how many Datejusts and Oyster Perpetuals Rolex produces annually? Okay, are you ready? As per independent studies, Rolex produces around 350,000 Datejusts and over 200,000 Oyster Perpetuals each year. Isn't that just insane? I'll leave the link to the study down in the description so you can have a look at it for yourself. But my point here is that these are two entry-level Rolexes that are not impossible to get. These two classic models are similar to each other in many aspects, which is why I wanted to make this video and explore the similarities and differences and ultimately determine which of the two is the better buy. So here I have a 41mm black Oyster Perpetual in my left hand and a 36mm Datejust with a blue motif dial, a smooth bezel and an oyster bracelet in my right. I would have loved to compare two 36mm watches, but unfortunately I could only get my hands on the 41mm OP. That's okay, because the 36 and 41mm OPs are very similar in all aspects. For some background, the Datejust and Oyster Perpetual fall in the classic watch family in Rolex's lineup and have origins dating back to the middle of the 20th century. The Datejust was introduced in 1945 to commemorate Rolex's 40th anniversary. While the term oyster was initially coined in 1926, the Oyster Perpetual line was only introduced in 1950, 5 years after the Datejust. Coming to the actual watches, we'll first compare the cases. We can see that both stainless steel watches have a similar profile, only differing in size. Both cases look perfectly round and well proportioned. Both watches have similar smooth bezels, which unfortunately are fingerprint magnets and will eventually show some scratches. It is what it is. The only visible difference on the case is that the OP has brushed lugs while the Datejust has polished lugs. As a result, the Datejust lugs appear more shiny while the OP's lugs appear more grey. Visually, I'm okay with either finish and it doesn't really make a big difference to me. However, functionally, the brushed lugs of the OP will age better as the polished lugs on the DJ will eventually show scratches. Turning the watches on their sides, I wouldn't call either watch slim, nor would I call them thick. As far as mechanical sports watches go, these two have standard thicknesses coming in at 12mm. Personally, I don't have a problem with their size, but it would be great if Rolex would somehow shave off 1mm or even 2mm, making them more wearable on smaller wrists. Now both watches have really solid crowns. I haven't handled any ultra luxury watches, but of the watches that I have handled, the Rolex crowns are the best. This duo comes with a screw down crown with very distinct adjustment positions, confident crown motion, and the crowns on Rolexes are just a joy to use. Both watches have a more than capable 100 meters of water resistance thanks to these screw down crowns. Well, this one's easy. These are traditional Rolexes. The dials are universally known and loved. Keeping in line with the classic Rolex approach, both watches are simple, even verging on boring. Nothing fancy or crazy here. Definitely no Marvel collabs. Now the finishing is the same on both. That's to say, it's very good on the pair. Although fully machine made, Rolex watches are extremely well built and finished to a high standard, so this is no surprise. The dials and cases themselves appear flawless to the naked eye. Now this Oyster Perpetual has a plain black dial. If I were to be super critical, I would say that I would have liked to see a darker, more jet black dial. But this is me just being picky for the sake of it. In reality, the dial is plenty dark and looks great. The stick markers are unobtrusive and easy to read. This Datejust has a fluted motif dial in blue. I know that many people believe that this dial looks busy, but I love it. If you've watched my other videos, you know I'm a sucker for blue. I love all things blue, give me more of it. So this dial works great for me. Having the Rolex motif pattern also makes it a little more rare and unique compared to standard Datejusts. Now I don't know if this is true, but I've been told that there's only one machine in the world that can manufacture the motif dial. To me, this makes the dial even more special. The distinctive element on the Datejust is obviously the Cyclops lens, which I know is more controversial than the Kardashians. Personally, I like it, and it helps my poor 28-year-old eyes read the date more easily. Also helping legibility are the clear stick markers for the hours and minutes. While not as legible as the OP, this dial doesn't strain my eyes in any way and it more than does the job. One small complaint I have with all Rolexes is the amount of text on the dial. I wish Rolex stopped putting multiple lines of the text here and gave us cleaner, simpler dials. Why can't they just lose the superlative chronometer text? Since 2015, every single Rolex has been superlative chronometer certified. Yes, Rolex, we know your watch is accurate. Now can you please get it out of our faces? Coming to the available options, the OP has 5 to 7 dial options for the 36 and 41mm dials. Whereas there are over 100 different options for the Datejust. The Datejust can be configured to have a smooth bezel, a fluted white gold bezel, to have a jubilee bracelet, to have yellow gold, ever rose gold, and even diamonds on the dial. Both watches have solid, long-lasting lume. Rolex employs its proprietary lume, Chromolite, which has a nice blue glow to it. When fully charged, the lume on both watches comfortably lasts at least a few hours. If you're enjoying this video so far, a like and sub to the channel will be awesome. Let's just say that I'll be perpetually grateful to you. Now the Oyster Perpetual uses the caliber 30-30 movement, while the Datejust uses the 30-35 movement. Say what you will about Rolex, but you have to admit that Rolex makes some very high performance movements. While these movements are not hand assembled or finished to the highest degree, they are extremely well engineered and robust. These automatic movements have power reserves of 70 hours and are highly accurate. In fact, this accuracy is one of the most underappreciated facts about these watches. If I were to give you a few examples, I can tell you that Omega's Metas certified calibers 8800 and 8900 used in the Seamaster Divers and Aquaterra models have an accuracy of 0 to plus 5 seconds a day, while the Patek Philippe Nautilus has an accuracy of -3 to plus 2 seconds a day. Rolex betters both, with the superlative chronometer watches having a daily deviation of no worse than plus or minus 2 seconds a day. As far as mechanical watches go, these movements are highly accurate. At this price point, I think only Grand Seikos perform better with the spring drive movement, which too is regulated by a quartz oscillator. In terms of the wearing experience and comfort, the Oyster bracelet is just class leading. It feels really comfortable and I love it. I know I'm coming off as a big Rolex fanboy, but I'm just stating facts. Rolex is far from perfect, but there are some things it absolutely nails, and the bracelet is one of them. While both watches come with Oyster bracelets, the Oyster Perpetual's bracelet has a brushed finish throughout, resulting in a more subdued appearance, while the Datejust's bracelet has a polished center link, making it slightly more flashy. Perhaps some people like this, but I prefer the even-toned OP bracelet. Now again, just like the lugs, this bracelet will be less prone to scratches compared to the bracelet on the Datejust. The clasp on both watches performs similarly, but look slightly different. Continuing the theme, we can see that the OP has even finishing on its clasp and the Rolex crown is etched into the surface. On the other hand, the clasp on the Datejust has a shiny central component with a raised logo. Again, I prefer the OP's clasp in terms of looks. Functionally, they are the same, well built and comfortable. Both clasps have the EasyLink system, allowing a 5mm extension to the bracelet on the fly. The Oyster Perpetual starts at $6,100 for the 36mm option and $6,400 for the 41. The Datejust charges a premium starting at $7,450 for the 36mm smooth and Oyster combination and $8,050 for the 41mm option. Now you can go crazy and spec the Datejust all the way to up to almost $17,000 with the gold, jubilee and diamond options. While the OP is more pocket friendly, it is also harder to find at retail, and I've seen Datejusts being more readily available in general. Of course, some highly sought after Datejusts like the mint green or even this blue motif dial can be really hard to get, but you will most likely find some Datejust you like within a few months. The same can't be said about the OP. So to conclude, I think both models have their merits. The OP wins with its simplicity and timeless charm. The Datejust wins with its widespread options that make it easier to find the exact watch you like. The OP wins for having a cleaner dial with no date window, which also reduces the possibility of screwing up the movement. The Datejust wins because it has a date window to help us folks, those who don't own smartphones and have no means of telling the date without it. The OP has evenly finished lugs, bracelet and clasp, which are more resistant to scratches. The Datejust has a more shiny look overall and can be made shinier with a jubilee bracelet and shinier wrist with a fluted gold bezel. So what's my take? If you want a one and done watch, the Datejust is an excellent all-rounder. You can easily dress it up or down depending on the situation. I also like the functionality of the Datejust with its date window and endless customization options. On the other hand, I enjoy the clean, timeless look of the OP. I also like the fact that the watch in general hides scratches better. It serves better as a go anywhere, do anything watch. Another advantage with the OP is that it's a little more subtle and under the radar. The Datejust with its Cyclops lens can be easily identified as a Rolex, and even more so with a fluted bezel or the Jubilee bracelet. Of course, if your style is more flamboyant and your aim is to be seen, the Datejust will accomplish this better. In conclusion, both the OP and the Datejust are solid entry-level Rolexes. I feel that most people would be happy with either. I think you should buy whichever one you want as long as you can find it at retail. If I had to pick just one, I would lean towards the Oyster Perpetual. But which one would you rather pick? Do you agree with my conclusions or do you have a different opinion? I would love to hear your thoughts. Finally, thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps small channels like mine. I'm also planning on making more comparison videos in the future, comparing the Datejust to the Cartier Santos, Omega Aquaterra and the Grand Seiko Ome Vitari. I'm excited just thinking about them. So please consider subscribing if you want to see them first. Thanks again and see you all very soon.